Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that you have never truly ruled your own life, that every decision, every reaction, every failure was not yours, but the result of impulses you never controlled. You called it destiny. You called it bad luck. But in truth, it was your own lack of discipline wearing 1,000 masks. Machiavelli once warned, "The man who cannot command himself will be commanded by everything else." The world doesn't destroy the weak. It simply waits for them to destroy themselves. And they always do. Through comfort, through distraction, through emotion. Discipline, that word you hear every day but never truly understand, is not about waking up early or following rules. It's about building an empire inside your mind brick by brick until no chaos can enter. Because the moment your emotions start to rule you, you become a servant in your own kingdom. History never remembers the emotional. It remembers the disciplined. Those who acted with structure when the world screamed for impulse. Those who stayed still while everyone else panicked. Those who knew that control is the purest form of power. So before we talk about strength, ambition, or success, we must talk about discipline. Because without it, every dream collapses, every plan turns to dust, and every man, no matter how gifted, becomes a soldier who dies before the battle even begins. This is the truth Machiavelli saw centuries ago. And today we'll uncover how his idea of discipline still decides who rules and who is ruled. Discipline is not motivation, it's structure. Discipline has nothing to do with motivation. Motivation is fire, bright, loud, but temporary. Discipline is the steel that survives when the fire fades. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he wrote that the good order of the militias is the origin of good order in the states. What he meant was simple but brutal. Without internal structure, everything collapses, cities, armies, and even men. You can have the greatest dreams, the boldest visions, but without structure, you are nothing more than a leaf in the wind, moving, but going nowhere. True discipline is not born from excitement. It is born from structure, strategy that stands firm when emotion dies, when the body resists, when the mind screams for rest, when comfort whispers, "Not today." Discipline answers, "I act anyway." That's what Machiavelli called survival. A ruler who cannot govern himself will never govern a kingdom. A man who cannot command his own impulses will always be ruled by fear, by desire, by distraction. Look closely at your life. How many of your failures came because you waited to feel ready? How many opportunities slipped away while you searched for motivation? The truth is, you don't rise when you feel strong. You rise when you act despite feeling weak. Discipline is the architecture of your destiny. It's the invisible framework holding your chaos together. Every rule you follow, every routine you obey, every moment you push forward when no one is watching, those are the bricks that build your empire. Machiavelli warned that an undisciplined prince is more dangerous to himself than any external enemy. The same is true for you. You are not defeated by the world. You are defeated by the moments you choose comfort over consistency. The undisciplined man destroys himself from within, slowly, silently, predictably. But the one who builds structure around his chaos, who treats discipline as sacred law, he becomes unstoppable. His emotions may tremble, his body may falter, but his system never breaks. That is why discipline must never depend on motivation. Motivation burns out, structure endures. The disciplined man doesn't chase the feeling of control, he creates it. He doesn't wait for peace, he builds it brick by brick, through order, through repetition, through will. And when the storms come, it is not luck that saves him. It is structure. It is discipline. It is power. Internal order reflects external power. Every empire that ever rose, every kingdom that ever ruled began with one thing: internal order. Machiavelli believed that a ruler's greatest strength wasn't his army or his wealth, it was his discipline. Because what is a strong army without command? What is a powerful nation without structure? Nothing but noise before collapse. He wrote that the external order of a state is merely a reflection of the internal order of its leader. Meaning, when if the man is weak within, his kingdom will rot without. Look around in your own life. The chaos you see outside is often the chaos you've allowed inside. The unfinished goals, the broken routines, the emotional storms, they are not random. They are reflections of your inner disorder. You cannot lead a team, a family, or even a single day effectively if your mind remains undisciplined. Machiavelli's philosophy was cruelly simple. A man who cannot govern himself will be governed by the world. And those who are governed by others, he said, are already politically dead. They just haven't realized it yet. Internal order means commanding your impulses before they command you. It's the ability to remain calm when others panic, to stay focused when everything screams distraction, to think strategically when emotion demands reaction. The disciplined mind is like a fortress and not easily shaken, not easily breached. It stands tall while others crumble. That's why Machiavelli called discipline permanent armor. It doesn't shine like gold, but it protects like steel. The undisciplined man, on the other hand, builds his life on emotion. He reacts. He overthinks, he breaks under pressure. He blames circumstances, luck, or people. But Machiavelli knew that fortune favors only those who are internally fortified. Your external success and your wealth, your influence, your peace, they all grow from one source, your internal control. Discipline is not about restriction. It's about preparation. It is training before the battle, calm before the storm. A disciplined man does not wait for the world to be kind. He prepares for the world to be cruel, because he knows chaos is inevitable but collapse is optional. So remember this: the order you build within yourself becomes the power you command in the world. If you master your mind, you command your fate. If you fail to, someone else will. Discipline, the permanent armor. Discipline is not a tool you pick up when convenient. It is armor you wear every single day. Machiavelli understood that the true strength of a ruler wasn't measured by how he acted in peace, but by how he endured chaos. He wrote that a prince who lacks discipline is more dangerous to himself than to his enemies. Why? Because his downfall doesn't come from an invading army. It comes from the cracks inside his own walls. Think of your life like a fortress. Every undisciplined thought, every emotional outburst, every impulsive decision removes a brick from that fortress. Over time, the structure weakens. Not because the enemy was strong, but because you left your defenses unguarded. That's why Machiavelli called discipline permanent armor. It's not something you wear when things get hard. It's something you never take off because the battle never ends. The temptation to act out of fear, anger, or pride is constant. The undisciplined mind reacts. The disciplined one calculates. One panics and falls. The other endures and wins. Discipline gives you the power to remain strategic when everything inside you demands reaction. It teaches you to move with reason, not emotion. To fight with patience, not impulse. It transforms survival into sovereignty. But here's the brutal truth Machiavelli saw. People crave comfort more than control. They would rather feel good than be strong. That's why empires fall. That's why men fail, because they polish their crowns but neglect their armor. Discipline is not glamorous. It's the quiet act of self-command, the choice to stay focused when your mind wants to wander, to prepare when others rest, to endure when others break. A ruler who lacks discipline is like a general who sleeps through war. His destruction is not a matter of if, but when. Machiavelli warned that impulsive rulers destroy themselves long before the enemy strikes, because they are slaves to the storms inside them. And the same is true for you. If your mind remains undisciplined, the smallest challenge will defeat you. But if your discipline becomes armor, solid, relentless, unyielding, no force will break you. Remember this: strategy wins wars, but only discipline keeps empires alive. The internal battlefield. Discipline as command. Machiavelli saw the human spirit not as a peaceful garden, but as a battlefield. Within every person, there are armies of impulses, fears, desires, and doubts, each fighting for control. Most people lose this war long before it begins because they walk into it without discipline, without formation, without a commander to lead. And that commander, Machiavelli reminds us, must be you. Imagine an army marching into war without training, without obedience, without strategy. What do you see? Chaos, panic, soldiers running in every direction, each one acting on instinct instead of order. That's the same picture inside an undisciplined mind. You make plans, but your emotions disobey. You set goals, but your impulses desert you at the first sign of fear or fatigue. You become your own worst enemy. Not because you lack talent, but because your mind refuses to obey its own commands. Discipline, then, is not just control. It's command. It's what turns thoughts into soldiers, emotions into allies, instincts into tools. It's the power to say march and watch your will obey. Without that command, no strategy can hold, no ambition can survive. You can have dreams greater than empires, but without discipline, they collapse like sandcastles under the first wave of reality. Machiavelli knew that mercenary armies, those who fought for comfort instead of purpose, always fell apart. The same is true for those who live by motivation instead of mastery. When life gets hard, motivation deserts. Discipline remains. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. It moves you forward when everything inside screams to stop. And here lies Machiavelli's deepest lesson. A disordered mind cannot lead a disciplined life. Just as a general must inspect his troops every morning, you must inspect your thoughts, your habits, your focus. Are they aligned? Are they loyal? Or are they rebelling against your command? Because the truth is simple but brutal. If you do not command your mind, it will command you. You will live as a servant to impulses, moods, and fears, mistaking reaction for freedom. But the moment you take command, you become sovereign. Your mind becomes your army and your discipline your weapon. And only then, only through total internal order can you begin to conquer the world outside. Relentless routine, the ritual of power. Every empire, every great conqueror, every timeless mind was built not on bursts of inspiration, but on relentless routine. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. He knew that true power doesn't come from doing great things once. It comes from doing necessary things every single day, whether the heart agrees or not. Routine is the invisible architecture of domination. It shapes the body, molds the mind, and bends time to your will. Most people crave freedom, yet they live as prisoners of inconsistency. They wake up at random hours, chase distractions, and call it flexibility. But Machiavelli would smirk at this illusion. He'd remind you that chaos wears the mask of freedom, while discipline wears the crown of control. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's the ability to do what must be done even when every cell in your body screams no. Routine is the ritual of the strong. It's the silent proof that you command yourself. Each repeated act, every early morning, every calculated step, cements your authority over the weaker parts of you. Like a blacksmith hammering iron into a blade, routine shapes your raw potential into sharp precision. It makes your mind predictable to you and unpredictable to others. Think of it. The same time you waste hesitating, the disciplined person is already acting. While you're doubting, he's executing. While you're seeking comfort, he's building empires. Power doesn't belong to the intelligent or the talented. It belongs to those who master repetition without boredom. Machiavelli warned that the state without daily governance collapses, just as a person without daily order decays. The world rewards consistency because consistency builds trust. In politics, in power, in personal dominance. A man of routine becomes unshakable because his habits operate even when his emotions fail. And here lies the paradox. Routine feels like a cage at first, but it becomes your liberation later. It kills laziness, silences chaos, and replaces uncertainty with rhythm. Over time, it transforms ordinary effort into effortless control. So remember this. Your routine is your ritual. Your schedule is your fortress. Every sunrise you conquer builds your invisible empire. The one who controls his mornings controls his mind. The one who commands his hours commands his destiny. Power of emotional detachment, the cold advantage. In the theater of power, emotions are the enemy of precision. Machiavelli knew this truth like a weapon sharpened in silence. The moment you feel too deeply, you lose control. The man who reacts emotionally is predictable, and predictability is death in the game of dominance. Emotional detachment isn't cruelty, it's strategy. It's the art of watching chaos unfold around you while remaining untouched by it. The crowd burns with anger, fear, and passion, but the ruler stands still, cold, unreadable, untouchable. That stillness is not emptiness, it's control. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear compassionate, but never be ruled by compassion. Appear kind but act calculated. Feel nothing unchosen. Every reaction must serve a purpose. Every silence must be deliberate. The less you reveal, the more power you hold. Emotionally detached people move differently. They don't chase validation or beg for loyalty. They let others exhaust themselves trying to decode their stillness. That confusion becomes power. When you are calm in storms, others lean on your stability, and in leaning, they give you control. Detachment turns your presence into a mystery, and mystery turns into authority. Think about it. The emotional man acts first and regrets later. The detached man waits, observes, and strikes only once, decisively. The emotional man burns bridges. The detached man builds them, only to decide later when to cross or destroy them. Detachment doesn't mean apathy, it means precision. It means knowing when to act and when to disappear. In relationships, business, politics, and war, those who stay emotionally grounded always outlast those who drown in their feelings. Machiavelli would say, "Control your face and you control the room." The cold man doesn't push. He lets others project warmth, guilt, and desire onto him. He becomes a mirror to their weaknesses. The cold advantage isn't about killing emotion, it's about mastering it. It's the quiet art of remaining centered while others lose themselves. It's smiling while others rage, walking away while others beg for attention, and speaking softly while others scream for control. Because in the end, power doesn't belong to the loud or the passionate. It belongs to the one who can feel everything, yet choose to act as if he feels nothing. Controlled chaos, the art of calculated unpredictability. True power lives in unpredictability. The moment people think they've figured you out, you've already lost control over how they see you. Predictability breeds comfort, and comfort breeds blindness. But unpredictability, it keeps their mind awake, restless, searching. It traps their thoughts around you like a riddle they can't solve. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it a name: control through confusion. Controlled chaos is not about being reckless, it's about strategic disorder. It's about keeping your rhythm just offbeat enough that no one can dance to your tune. One day you're warm, attentive, and present. The next you vanish without explanation. One moment you praise, the next you criticize. You become both the calm and the storm. The key is balance. You must never look unstable, only unreadable. When people can't predict you, they overanalyze every move, every word, every silence. Their obsession grows in the space between their guesses and your truth. Unpredictability doesn't just command attention, it breeds emotional dependence. The brain craves patterns, and when it can't find one, it fixates. It searches for meaning in your inconsistency. That's when power shifts. Suddenly, they stop thinking freely. They start thinking about you. Every delay becomes a mystery. Every text, every glance, every absence becomes a story they tell themselves. You're no longer just a person. You're a puzzle they can't stop solving. Even in politics and warfare, this law remains absolute. The greatest leaders and generals, Machiavelli, Sun Tzu, Napoleon, used unpredictability as a weapon. Strike where least expected.
Speak less than what's needed.
Show kindness where cruelty is assumed, and silence where answers are demanded. Confusion breeds submission because the human mind would rather follow what it cannot predict than confront its own uncertainty. Controlled chaos is not madness. It's discipline disguised as mystery. It's knowing exactly when to pull back and when to explode forward. It's walking the line between order and ruin so gracefully that people mistake your unpredictability for genius. Because in a world where everyone is predictable, the one who moves like smoke, appearing, disappearing, reappearing, rules the battlefield of perception. Be the storm they cannot forecast. Be the silence they cannot decode. That is how unpredictability becomes your most dangerous form of control. The mirror technique, reflecting power back. Power doesn't always come from dominance. Sometimes it comes from reflection, from becoming the mirror in which others see the version of themselves they crave most. Machiavelli understood that control isn't about force, it's about fascination. And fascination is born when people feel seen, understood, and validated, but only in fragments. The mirror technique is the art of showing people just enough of themselves to keep them hooked, while never revealing your true reflection. To mirror someone effectively, you must listen deeper than their words. You absorb their tone, their rhythm, their energy, and feed it back in subtle ways. You become the calm reflection of their inner chaos. When they speak of ambition, you hint at shared vision. When they reveal pain, you offer empathy but never full comfort. You reflect what they need, not what they expect. And in doing so, you make them believe you get them like no one else ever has. That illusion is power, but the secret is control. You don't mirror completely, only selectively. A perfect mirror becomes invisible. A fractured one, unforgettable. You show glimpses of similarity, not a full reflection. Enough to build connection, but little enough to maintain distance. They feel close to you, yet can't quite touch you. That distance becomes magnetic. They keep coming closer, hoping to see more of themselves in you. The mirror technique works because human beings are addicted to validation. Everyone wants to feel understood. Everyone craves resonance. When you mirror someone's emotional state, they feel safe. But when you mirror it incompletely, they feel challenged. That tension between safety and uncertainty is what keeps them obsessed. Even in leadership, seduction, or negotiation, mirroring builds deep psychological control. People naturally trust what feels familiar, even when it's dangerous. By reflecting their beliefs, their wounds, and their dreams back to them, you become the architect of their emotional world. And once they begin to see themselves through your reflection, you don't just hold their attention, you own their perception. The mirror doesn't speak loudly, it whispers. It doesn't chase approval, it creates it. You don't demand loyalty, they offer it, believing it was their choice all along, because the one who controls the reflection controls the reality. Scarcity and psychological worship. The rare is always worshipped. The moment something becomes easily available, it loses its magic. Machiavelli understood this law centuries ago. Abundance kills desire, while scarcity turns ordinary men into gods. Power doesn't lie in being everywhere. It lies in being missed. The more difficult it is to access you, the more valuable your presence becomes. Scarcity doesn't just create attraction, it builds psychological dependence. Think about it. When someone is always available, they become background noise. But when they appear only at select moments, when their attention feels earned, not given, they become unforgettable. Every message, every glance, every word becomes a reward. That's how kings, leaders, and even lovers have always ruled hearts and minds, not through constant presence, but through strategic absence. Scarcity transforms your approval into currency, something people work for, crave, and compete to earn. Scarcity is not about ignoring everyone. It's about selective access. You don't withhold out of cruelty. You withhold out of design. You give small doses of presence, then retreat into silence. You offer warmth, then distance. You reveal a glimpse of intimacy, then vanish before they can grasp it. This pattern turns your time, your energy, your attention into gold. They start to chase it. They start to need it. And that's where worship begins. Humans are wired to desire what they can't easily have. It's a primal instinct. The more uncertain the reward, the more addicted the mind becomes. Scarcity triggers the same part of the brain as survival. It makes people think, what if I lose this? What if they never return? That fear of loss transforms admiration into obsession. You become less of a person and more of a symbol of mystery, power, and value. Even in leadership, scarcity amplifies influence. When your presence is rare, your words carry weight. When you speak less, every sentence feels sacred. When your approval is earned, people bend their behavior to keep it. They begin to self-correct, to impress you, to protect the little access they have to your world. Scarcity doesn't mean distance. It means control. You control how often you appear, how deeply you engage, and how much of yourself you reveal. The rest you leave to imagination, because mystery feeds desire, and desire, when starved, turns into worship. Anchors in their subconscious, becoming a mental presence. The most powerful form of control is not physical, it's psychological. When you live rent-free inside someone's mind, you no longer need to chase influence. It follows you. Machiavelli would have called this the highest form of mastery, to plant yourself so deeply in another's subconscious that even your absence feels like a presence. This is not sorcery, it's strategy. It's the art of creating anchors in someone's mind that tie their emotions, memories, and triggers back to you. Anchors are subtle cues, gestures, phrases, scents, tones, habits that attach your image to emotion. Maybe it's the way you speak slowly when they're anxious, the scent you leave behind after leaving a room, or a single phrase you repeat that lingers long after you've gone. Over time, their mind starts linking comfort, tension, excitement, and relief to you. You become the emotional reference point through which they interpret reality. They see you even when you're not there. This is how legends are built, not by constant visibility, but by emotional imprinting. People remember not what you did, but how you made them feel. If you can engineer that feeling deliberately, you control the rhythm of their thoughts. You become a ghost in their mind, whispering through memory, influencing decisions from afar. That is true power, quiet, invisible, permanent. Anchors also serve another function. They blur the line between memory and mythology. When someone feels something powerful in your presence, their brain doesn't store it as logic. It stores it as story. And every time they replay that story, it strengthens the neural link between you and that emotion. Soon they don't just remember you, they need you to feel whole. You can reinforce these anchors with repetition and unpredictability. Repeat certain gestures or words at emotional highs, then disappear. The contrast between intensity and absence makes the memory burn brighter. They start searching for that same sensation, unaware that you've programmed their desire. The ultimate goal is not to dominate their body, but to possess their mind. You don't need chains when the heart becomes its own prison. When they think through you. When they feel because of you. That's how you stop being a person and become a presence. Identity fusion, binding ego with emotion. The deepest level of control isn't when someone loves you, it's when they start to become you. Machiavelli understood that real power begins when loyalty turns into identity. When a person stops separating who they are from who you are, they no longer serve you by choice, they serve you by instinct. This is the phenomenon of identity fusion, a psychological merging where another person's ego becomes tied to your approval, your image, your existence. It begins subtly. You make them feel unique, chosen, special, different from everyone else. You give them a title, a role, a place in your world that feels irreplaceable. Maybe you call them the only one who understands, my right hand, or the one who sees what others can't. Those words sound like affection, but they're architecture. You're building a new identity around them and anchoring that identity to you. Once they accept it, their ego becomes dependent on maintaining that role. To disappoint you is to betray themselves. Identity fusion is the ultimate psychological lock. It works because humans crave meaning more than love. They want to belong to something bigger than themselves. When you become that something bigger, they begin to defend you, justify you, and protect you as if protecting their own reflection. You don't even have to demand loyalty. They offer it willingly, believing it's self-preservation. Soon your victories become theirs. Your opinions reshape their worldview. Your disapproval feels like a personal failure. This is no longer influence, it's internal colonization. You've taken residence in their self-image. Even if they try to leave, they can't. Because detaching from you would mean shattering the very identity they've built. You maintain this fusion by balancing closeness with distance. Too much warmth and they become complacent. Too much coldness and they detach. You keep them suspended in the space between validation and withdrawal, forever trying to prove their worth to the version of you that made them feel extraordinary. And that's the secret. When you control how someone sees themselves, you don't have to control what they do. They'll shape their actions to maintain the identity you gave them. You don't dominate their body. You occupy their ego. And when the ego serves you, obedience becomes devotion. Secrets vault strategy, turning trust into power. The final stage of influence isn't about domination, it's about possession. Not of their time, not of their effort, but of their secrets. Machiavelli knew that every secret confessed is a chain silently fastened. When someone trusts you with their hidden truths, their fears, their mistakes, their shame, they aren't just opening up. They're surrendering leverage. The vault strategy is about transforming trust into silent power, the kind that binds deeper than loyalty ever could. People crave understanding. They long to be seen without judgment, so you become that sanctuary. You listen without reacting. You nod not to comfort but to collect. Every confession they make becomes a brick in your invisible fortress. You are not exposing their weakness. You're storing it. You let them feel safe, even righteous, for revealing what no one else knows. But make no mistake, what they see as intimacy, you see as insurance. The beauty of this strategy lies in subtlety. You never weaponize the secrets directly. You let the other person remember that you could. The fear is never spoken, it's felt. They start to self-censor around you, eager to maintain your goodwill. Because deep down they know, crossing you means exposure, rejection, or ruin. And no human can easily rebel against the one who knows their unedited self. But here's the higher Machiavellian art. Never threaten, never remind. Let the power of knowing do the work. People destroy themselves under the weight of what they've already revealed. Their guilt becomes your silent ally, their dependency your protection. You hold no weapon, yet everyone remains disarmed in your presence. True mastery of the vault strategy also means offering your own selective vulnerability. A fabricated confession here, a symbolic wound there. It creates reciprocity. They mirror your honesty with their truth, never realizing that your secrets are carefully engineered illusions while theirs are real currency. This is how empires are maintained without armies, through emotional leverage disguised as compassion. The one who holds the most secrets holds the deepest control. Because when people hand you their darkness, they are not trusting you. They are binding themselves to you. And when you keep their secrets safer than they keep themselves, you don't just earn loyalty, you own silence. The final command. In the end, everything returns to one battlefield, your mind. Every lesson Machiavelli whispered through the ages, every strategy carved in his brutal logic leads back to a single truth. The one who governs himself governs all. You can conquer nations, command armies, and manipulate people, but if your own impulses rule you, you are nothing more than a decorated slave, a prince in chains. Machiavelli never spoke about morality. He spoke about mastery, about the courage to see the world as it is, cruel, chaotic, and indifferent, and to act not with emotion but with strategy. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about sovereignty, the power to decide even when every fiber of your being begs to surrender. It is the art of remaining still while the world burns. The calm within the storm that others mistake for divine luck but is in truth trained control. The weak wait for motivation. The strong act despite the lack of it. The weak hope for luck. The strong engineer it. You were not born to drift like dust in the winds of circumstance. You were built to command. Your thoughts, your fears, your future. But to rule, you must first be ruthless with yourself. Every comfort you cling to is a chain. Every excuse you make is an enemy within your walls. So, build your fortress. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. Routine by routine. Guard it with the vigilance of a general preparing for eternal war. Because the world will not stop attacking. Life will not become easier. Fortune will not suddenly favor you. The only thing that changes is you. If you dare to enforce order where chaos once lived. Remember this. Discipline is not about living without freedom. It is about earning it. It is not about suppressing your emotions. It is about training them to serve your purpose. And it is not about appearing strong. It is about becoming unbreakable. Now the question is not whether you understand Machiavelli's philosophy. The question is, will you live it? Because those who do will not just survive this world, they will rule it. Now say it in the comments, I choose to rule myself. Because that is where every empire begins, and where every weak man finally ends.